You spent quite a lot of time in Philippines previously when you were building the PGAG business. What was one thing that surprised you the most?
I will never forget in my first trip, the client that was not my client yet invited me to stay in the family's house and move out of my hotel. And she invited me to stay in the master bedroom so that she and her husband would move out to sleep in the kids' room. And I was like, what? I just met you, right? But to her and maybe in their culture, it was being hospitable. The Filipino hospitality shines through. And I was extremely overwhelmed.
Welcome to the Pitch by Garage, where we deep dive into startups and tech and learn key business building skills from business leaders, entrepreneurs, and experts. Today, I'm excited to have a conversation with Carl Muck, co-founder of Hepmil. Hi Carl, thanks for joining me today. Tell us more about yourself.
Thanks for having me. My name is Carl. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hepmil Media Group. I started SGAG in 2012 with my co-founder, more commonly known as Xiaoming. So Adrian and I have built a company in 4 countries across Southeast Asia with about 150 staff across the region. And I'm really excited to be here to share more about our business.
So when you're thinking about commercial content, what is top of mind for you?
Everybody watches Super Bowl ads, but why can't we do that all the time? Why must it be that you only wait once a year to watch something that's actually funny or entertaining to watch? What if we could put entertainment first and commercial messages layered into entertainment, right? Consistently on digital. So that was really the mindset that we had. And I think the big shift in the industry that we must talk about is the acceptance from audiences that this is a business model. Now more and more content creators can do that without facing backlash of being sellouts, because they do know that content creators need the income to continue creating their content.
If we track back many years ago when meme was still a new form of advertising, how do you even put a price tag to that and even get conservative clients to pay for it?
So pricing strategy is something that's quite interesting, right? Memes were so unique and memes were also so controversial at times in the beginning that we could not outcharge people. We had to charge value. We had to create so much value. It was a brainless thing where people would say, you know what, I'm just going to try. And if it works, it works. If it fails, I'm not going to burn a hole in my budget. I'm not going to look bad in my organization. So that was the pricing mindset, right? Enough for them to see results, not enough for them to feel the pinch if it doesn't work, because there would be flops as well. So for us, that was something that we were able to get a few clients on board. Over time, allowed us to convince some really sort of serious clients like banks and government bodies to work with us, because they are very conservative and big brand, and a lot of them look at each other and go, hey, if they've done that, I love the piece. Let's do something together and let's try.
How do you keep your team from moving so fast, given how trends on TikTok and Instagram and across the social media platforms are moving so fast?
In the context of Singapore, failure is often shunned. It's often something very taboo in our culture. Failure is actually really important because it gives us data points for us to iterate in our next build of whatever we are going to launch. On the flip side, if we penalized our guys, why didn't you hit your KPI of this number of views? Why is the traction so low? That creates a sense of fear where people don't dare to try. And when they don't try and they don't fail, they don't innovate. And then the content stagnates, right? For example, school life or school-related topics works very, very well on Instagram and TikTok because naturally of the audiences there. So you can have that hypothesis that, yep, all the students are there, and therefore we validated that school content works. Similarly, when we put school content up on Facebook, which current day everybody knows Facebook is for old people, right? That's what they say. And likewise, we have to validate that with content. When we put school-related topics out on Facebook, nobody cares. Nobody talks about it. Similarly, when we flip the conversation to let's talk about taxes, let's talk about maybe HR-related matters, work life, right? You put that on an Instagram, TikTok, doesn't really go. You put that on a Facebook, it goes. So we validate a lot of these things. We look at trends. And if you create on trend, the algorithms pick it up.
You're in Malaysia, Philippines, and now you're working your way into Indonesia as well. What are some of the key lessons that you have learned as you navigate in one of the world's most dynamic region, which is Southeast Asia?
So one interesting market that we saw huge digital adoption was actually in Philippines, right? A lot of advertisers spend a lot of money on out of home because they are all stuck on traffic jam. So when you're stuck in the traffic jam, you look up, you see the billboards, you see the out of home, and that's a big part of the spend. But suddenly everybody was on lockdown. There are no more traffic jams in the Philippines. Nobody was going out. We had this interesting phenomenon where advertisers didn't know where to spend. And you can't possibly throw all your money at Facebook and Google. There needed to be other alternatives. We had the opportunity to say, hey, why not invest in content creators on TikTok, which blew up in the pandemic in Philippines especially. All these creators have millions of followers, a lot of eyeballs. Why not work with them? They're all shoot from home anyways, right? Budgets are low, so even if it fails or it's not up to expectations, the budgets are not big. There wouldn't be much damage in that sense. That opened a new customer segment for us, a new business model for us in our new creator network. So I think we had to spend a lot of time in the markets. We had to talk to young people. We spent a lot of time talking to customers. So we wanted to really understand, was there a market for us? Is disruption going to come in the form that we saw in Singapore, where young people were not engaging with a lot of advertising outlets?
You spent quite a lot of time in Philippines previously when you were building the PGAG business. What was one thing that surprised you the most?
I will never forget, in my first trip, the client that was not my client yet invited me to stay in the family's house and move out of my hotel. And she invited me to stay in the master bedroom so that she and her husband would move out to sleep in the kids' room. And I was like, what? I just met you, right? But to her, and maybe in the culture, it was being hospitable. The Filipino hospitality shines through. And I was extremely overwhelmed. Like, Singaporeans are not like that, right? We are very like, oh, work is work, play is play. It doesn't cross, right? I don't bring work home. I won't invite you to my house. Surely not sleep in my master bedroom in my place.
I want to talk about something that I am very curious about, which is that Hepmil's core business ultimately lies on the internet. So what are your considerations with Web3 being the next big thing?
There's this huge buzz about the metaverse. But for me, the metaverse was already here. We look at all the young kids hanging out in Minecraft, on Roblox, on Fortnite, right? They exist digitally. After school, they come home and they play games and they hang out with their friends every day. What form it's going to take, whether Meta, the company, is going to dominate, I don't know. But what I'm excited about is the opportunities for content creators, for young people who want to perhaps create.
So when are we going to start seeing your meme NFTs from Hepmil?
I think we've seen a lot of different NFT projects that are very exciting, but we want to take a sort of moment to really understand fully, because the last thing we want is to be seen what we call rugging the community, where we rug pull them, we make the money and there's no follow-up. That's the last thing we want, where there's sort of permanent brand damage in that sense. So we're observing. I don't think there is necessarily a first mover's advantage in this space.
Great. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I've learned so much about content, monetization, understanding the dynamics and the nuances of the Southeast Asia market. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed myself.
Now comes the time when I invite an expert to share her take on key lessons from Karl Marx. I'm lucky to have with me Maureen Tseng, General Manager of the Hoffman Agency. I want to find out more about the mainstreaming of influencers and content creators as the creator economy is taking over the media scene. What's your take on that, and what are some of the driving forces of this change?
At the heart of everything, content is still going to be king. Nothing beats quality and captivating content, but the medium and the ways in which we push out that content is going to be very, very critical. It's all about now micro influencers, the individual content creators. You're talking about people looking on mobiles and scrolling, and it's 2 seconds worth of attention span that you need to be getting hold of. So how do you capture that? And it's really, I think, for media businesses to understand that there are three things you need to focus on. So quality content is one, the ability to pivot very quickly, the agility that's required. And as Carl had indicated, a very data-driven approach is required. So you're going to need to have millennials, you need to have the Gen Zs on your team to be able to unpack that.
So, what is your take on winning in both market localization and also leveraging on a multi-market presence?
You need to have the local people on the ground. So we work with our country teams to come up with the campaigns. Because if you're not on the ground, you're not understanding the nuances, you're not understanding even down to the political sensitivities, the racial and cultural nuances, you are not going to win the battle. Asia Pac, they have very different nuances. So Carl is exactly right to be taking a country by country approach, going in, soaking up the atmosphere and understanding what is on the pulse, what's hot in the market to be able to cater to the audiences there.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I think this is really good advice, really good insights on Carl's story as well. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Vanessa.
And that's it for today's The Pitch by Garage. I hope you have learned valuable lessons, and if you enjoyed this episode, give us a like, leave a comment, share, and hit subscribe for more content on startups and tech. My name is Vanessa Ho, and stay safe and entrepreneurial.